Well, hello again, everybody. My name is Tom Pippins, a retired sportscaster, and one of my dearest friends on the planet is Steve the Homer, who is still active as one of the great radio sports talk hosts in America, in my admittedly biased opinion. But we're really not here to talk about sports. What we want to do is have a podcast, a video podcast, that talks about faith. His faith, my faith, we call it my faith, and your faith. And to that extent, we'll probably have guests as we go forward. But this is show number one. So, Homer, why don't you just share from the heart your vision of where you'd like to see this go?
Well, you pretty much said it, but my fascination is that everybody has a different story. That's why it's my faith. I have my story, you have yours, you can tell. And I've always been fascinated and amazed, and I think it speaks to the strength of God, that it isn't the same for anyone. Like, what age were you? What did you go to a church? And did you go to a religious school? And that's the fascination I have. And it isn't necessarily famous people. It's anybody, people that you run across in your life, people that you run across that terrible things have happened to them, and they're so strong. Or we're both Catholic within the Catholic Church. Like, we know somebody who said, "Man, the biggest thing to me was confession."
Yeah.
And I'm going, really? Not me. And so there's a real passion, and I don't know that people ever get a chance to say, "Here's my story," not my life story, my faith story. And for us as reporters, then when they start talking, it'll be like, okay, wait a minute. Now what? And I think that speaks to the strength of faith to me, in that there's so many different ways. I mean, you want to be a great quarterback. There are a limited number of ways you can do it. You got to do certain things. I don't think that applies to each person's faith. You know, in a Christian faith, clearly you believe in Jesus Christ. That to me is what it means. But I'm sure when we have people, we'll go, really? Really? Explain that a little bit more. But more than anything, I think you get a view of the passion and the diversity, which I think would help people be comfortable with what theirs is, not feeling, well, wait, I don't think that. And am I supposed to think that? Because the more people we have, I'm convinced we'll have different thoughts and different experiences on how their faith started, where they are now. I mean, you'd be a perfect example. Now, this is what I thought when I was 10. This is what I thought when I was 20. And all that, to me, is informative to people. But I think it speaks to the passion, as I said, but it also speaks to learning. I mean, you never sit down and go, okay, let's talk about our faith. What happened to you? And how it's different. And it also, to me, I would hope, gets people to realize that I don't think there's a perfect way. I don't think there's one way to do it. I don't think you have to do this or have to do that. And I would assume we'd see that because we'll see people with passion, but they won't do it exactly the same way. And other people might think that, no, this is how you need to do it. This is what you need to do, and they can certainly think that way. I'm curious also to see when we meet all these people what their stories are. Maybe after 20, I'll go, bad concept. They're all pretty much thinking the same thing. You know, do you go to church? How often do you go to church? How long do you go to church? Who's your favorite minister or preacher or priest or whatever? And what do you do with your kids? There's so many aspects of it. But more than anything, I would hope that people see, man, people care. This is like really important stuff to them, even though they did it this way or they did this. Or when you listen to something, you know, maybe I should try that. Maybe I should look at it that way. And that's the deal. My faith, assuming that everybody's faith is a little different in terms of the way they've lived it, and my curiosity to hear it and see what they say.
Faith, according to the Bible, is being sure of what is hoped for and certain of what is not seen. The centurion in the Bible, and I just came across this and we were talking about this, had such faith in Jesus, and remember, he's a non-Jew, that he said, you don't even have to come see me. I'm not worthy to see you.
Like, how do you get that strong?
Exactly.
How do you?
Exactly right. Yeah.
I mean, so like, I wish he was here to go, like, how?
Yeah. And Lord, I am not worthy to receive you, but only say the words, and my soul shall be healed. I mean, that came from him, and now it's in all the masses that we say before taking the Eucharist. So what I want to know is, as you say, how do you get like that? What is your faith journey? Talk a little bit about that with those in the audience, about how you came to be where you are today, and Homer, to believe what you do today.
To me, it always came down to whether or not you believe Jesus Christ is the Son of God. Like you've made other ones go like, I don't know why it's like I buy it. You buy it because of faith, or so. The change in the importance. The guy who taught me radio in Chicago took me to a Baptist church in Hammond, Indiana. Jack Hiles I had never seen 10,000 people. Yeah. They, and again, they're different churches. I'd never heard anybody preach like 45 minutes, and I was just in awe of all of that. And then, different things happen, and to me, it's always been that, like, I talk to God. Like, he's like my best friend. I mean, I talk to him all the time. Then I get mad at him and stuff like that. And so that would probably be the focus. And I went to a Catholic school, and my parents were very strong Catholics, and very disappointed. And they were sure when I got married, like I was going to marry from somebody from another faith. And when we were driving, and I told them, I think I want to marry Nancy, and she's Catholic, they stopped the car. Like, to me, it's more of the faith. But the biggest part to me is the relationship that I feel like I have with God. And I'm clearly different because, I'm mad at him. Like, I give him an F. Like, you just had a bad day.
But people need to know, and if they've listened to your show on the radio, sports show, you're real. And you're authentic, which is what I respect about you most. But that is your wrong. Relationship with Jesus Christ. Right. It's real. It's authentic.
Right. But I mean, I could be wrong. I wouldn't say, I'm sure this is it. That's just me. And he's answered me. He's answered my prayers. I mean, I have the difficulty of either it's legit or I'm insane. I'd prefer not to be insane. But, you can tell enough stories to people and they go like, you're crazy, no, that's what I think. There have been times where I'm convinced that God talked to me and said, do this. When I go to church every Sunday, I walk in and go, okay, God, let's go. This is when you tell me stuff. Like, and my wife goes crazy because I'll bring my Mother Teresa book and she's like, do you even listen to what he's saying? No, God and I are talking a little in the book here. What'd you think of the sermon? I cut a little of this, a little of that. So that's my hour. That's my hour when I feel like I'm open and God. No, either the stuff comes into my mind anyway, or he does do it, and it's happened so many times that, that's what I would say. Well, I don't know if there's anybody else that goes to mass on Sunday and goes, all right, God, let's go, give me a little something here. Tell me what to do for this week.
But then you listen.
Of course, yeah.
You're not too busy talking like I am all the time to miss the message that he had. Homer has turned me on to that wonderful book about Saint Mother Teresa of Calcutta. And it's not just about the Catholic faith, and that probably is what we may stay Catholic, but we may get into other, as a priest friend told me, the Catholic faith isn't the only way to Jesus Christ. But in his opinion, it's the best way. And as a former non-denominational church member, great respect, wonderful respect for such faithful people and friends. But to me, that is the case. The Catholic faith is the best way to get to know Jesus. We're going to talk about their faith journey. Let me ask you about this. You have suffered. Everybody has suffered. You have suffered yourself, you have suffered in your family, you have suffered loss, but you still have faith. Can you talk to me right now, today, because this is the first show, about your faith as it relates to suffering?
Well, I'm much more critical of God. Like, I think God's got a really bad resume in terms of all the pain that he's allowed to occur. Because I believe God can perform miracles on anything.
Agree.
So, and like I said, I complain. He's put members of my family through things that are just wrong. Now, the view of others would be, well, it's part of God's plan, and my answer is that he needs a new planner. And his assistance to me has been, and the worst one was to say to me literally, because I cried every day for 2 months after it happened. He said, look, you're never going to understand it, ever. You just have to learn to accept it. Someone else used the phrase where they said peace of mind. And that's basically it. So that I got peace of mind through him saying to me, and I bought it. Like, okay, all right, I'll never understand. I'll accept it. I'll give you a pass. Or there. So, and other people find other ways to find their own peace of mind when terrible things happen. So that I believe is in maybe God's greatest gift, because how do people survive terrible things? And so many never do. And the numbers would say to me that your best chance is to talk to God, and he will and has found a way to create peace of mind. Others have a different answer. Every answer is not the same one he gave me. The common answer is, look, you got to have faith in God and understand that he has a plan. I ain't buying that. That's a terrible plan. But he convinced me to, look, you're never going to understand it, but you have to accept it. Why do I accept it? Because I fundamentally think that God is incredible loving, loves all of us. And so, but as I said about my faith, it wouldn't surprise me if 10 people came up and say, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. Mm-hmm. When I've talked to people, I always say, when we're done, you'll either pray with me or for me. Mm-hmm. And people laugh, and then a couple people have come up afterwards and go, I didn't get that, but when you were done, I think I need to pray for you. I'm not bothered by that. Your answer, and I can ask you the same question. What's your answer to everybody has bad things happen to them individually, or things they don't understand. God takes things away from. Like, how could you do this? Mm-hmm. I don't, what's your answer? Mm-hmm. How has he given you peace of mind?
I think that, and as you know, my father was taken from this earth 36 years ago in a violent way. He was murdered. And that started me on the faith journey. The only thing I would say is, and you and I have talked as close friends, I needed to be humiliated to try to learn humility. The humility of Jesus Christ, and as Fulton Sheen, Archbishop, soon to be a saint himself, Venerable Fulton Sheen, you turned me on to him as well. He was saying this morning, St. Paul wasn't a great orator, speaker, preacher until he preached Jesus Christ crucified. So for me, it's trying to understand. We can talk about these things, can't we? We can intellectualize, but what about actually feeling it in our heart? That's where I'm at right now. I figure I've got X amount of time to get this thing right, and he's got a plan for me, and I'm so far away. The closer I go, the further away I feel I am. But I'm grateful for my sufferings, quote unquote, some of which have happened to our family, happened to me, and some of which I've caused myself, and I've hurt myself and others. And through it all, I'm told that I'm supposed to unite my sufferings to Christ. Same story. And the guests we have from the religious circles and others will have different vantage points, different beliefs. And I think that's part of the magic. At least we hope and pray it'll be magic that might be of benefit, because this is something that's been on Homer's heart for a long time. He's the one who's kind of captained this and said, let's get it out there. And I'm all about it. I mean, it's a great privilege to be with you. I appreciate it very much. And any other thoughts as we wrap up the first edition of the Homer and Pip video podcast called My Faith?